And now to introduce our filmmaker, Larry Cappetto. Larry is a Colorado filmmaker, author, musician, and producer of the public television film documentary series, Lest They Be Forgotten. Mr. Cappetto has interviewed over 1,000 war veterans in the past 10 years, resulting in a series of powerful film documentaries. He now devotes much of his time speaking to students in schools across the country, heralding the truth that freedom is not free. Mr. Cappetto is a national recipient of the prestigious George Washington Honor Medal and has earned the title Military Historian. In addition, he is an honorary member of the American Legion, Veterans of Foreign War, and Canadian Royal Legion. His passion, pride, and patriotism reflect the spirit of America. Would you please join me in welcoming Larry Cappetto?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I keep pinching myself. It's like, is this really happening? This is an amazing turnout for this evening. And my heart's full, like I told the veterans in my film earlier. My heart's full when I stand before an audience like this, and I have the privilege and opportunity to talk about our country and the freedoms that we have here. And I want to thank the John Carroll School also for this opportunity to meet here today. The McComas family, you guys are family to me. It means so much to be working with you again here. The law enforcement veterans in the audience, my motivation for this film. There may be some fire, EMS personnel, first responders here. And of course, those who have served our country and our military forces. Those that are here, my invited guests. I want to thank my wife for being here. And I thank God for this opportunity to meet. This is just an incredible time for me to once again share the work that I'm doing with our veterans, in this case our law enforcement veterans. Just quickly, for the past 10 years, I've been on what I call an incredible journey. I've had the opportunity to travel 500,000 miles interviewing veterans of all wars. I even interviewed a World War I veteran in Florida once, a 107-year-old man. Incredible story. And I find myself in a almost a surreal state as I continue my work. And at times it's very bittersweet. A week doesn't go by now when I don't get an email or a phone call from a widow who just lost her loved one. When I started my work 10 years ago, the statistics said 1,500 World War II veterans were dying every day in our country. Can you imagine that? 1,500 World War II veterans dying every day. During World War II, we had about 16 million of them. Now, today, there's probably less than 1 million. In 10 years, who's going to tell the story? So I've had this opportunity for 10 years now to travel and to record stories for the first time a lot of the times. I go into the homes of these veterans, of these warriors, and I start talking to them. And I don't think I'm anybody special, but it's been an amazing experience for me to hear stories, like I said, for the first time. And to travel back in time, 40, 50, 60 years ago, and through their eyes and their ears, learn about that doorway of the past, when they were 18, 19 years old, landing on a beach under enemy fire. You know, what's that like? What kind of mindset would it take to do that? Could I ever do that? And so I became, I think, obsessed with this. I remember the first interview I ever did in Arizona. I live in Colorado filmmaker. And I went to Arizona to start my work 10 years ago. And I had the local paper there print a story. It said, "Filmmaker looking for D-Day vets." And I came home from church. It was February 9, 2003, and I saw the red light blinking on my answering machine. I knew I had a message. So I retrieved the message, and this is what I heard. "My name is Jack Lindenman. I was at Omaha Beach in France. I landed on D-Day." And he started to cry. And I thought, oh my gosh, what have I tapped into here? The first time I saw an 85-year-old man cry, I kind of fumbled with the camera and I started talking. Now I just let the camera roll. And then they apologize for the emotion, and I say to them, how can you not be emotional about what you went through? When I sit down and I talk to a veteran, I think the success of my work is I provide a non-threatening environment for them to open up and to tell their stories. And it's the most humbling experience for me to listen. And I've practiced the fine art of listening well. And I tune in, and I think they trust me, and so they start to talk to me. And after an interview, a veteran's loved one or family member will come up to me and say, my father or my husband has never shared this before. You know, and I just go like, it's like, why are they talking to me? You know? I go into schools a lot, and I have opportunities. I've got an open door into our schools. And I challenge our young people to thought. I tell them, did you know you were born in a free country? But do you ever give thought to why you're free? And that opens a door for me to start talking to our young people today about our freedoms and about our country and the history of our veterans. And so I've been on this journey for 10 years. I was in my own home state of Colorado. I was in the Denver area last year, went into a middle school, and after my programs, I usually go up to the students and I'll ask them, you know, what did the program mean to you? And I saw this young man sitting by himself. He's 13 years old. 13 years old. And I went up to him and I sat down and I said, you know, what did the program mean to you? He says, it was very emotional. And then he began to cry. And he cried, and he cried, and he cried, and he cried. Just tears streaming down his face. And I thought, oh my goodness. He said, you know, now he had just listened to an 89-year-old Navy veteran who landed on D-Day, who was my adopted father. I lost my father when I was 10. This man, Lewis Johnson, has become my adopted father. He just saw the video, listened to this man talk, and he says, you know what? He says, when you kill somebody, it changes you. 13 years old, with tears coming down his eyes. It really touched me. He went on to say, I am so blessed that I have freedom to go home every day. 13 years old. He says, you know, they try to make this a video game. This isn't a video game. For an hour, I think I shocked these kids into reality. You know, that this is real, this stuff really happens. I worked in law enforcement 20 years ago, but not nearly to the extent of most of you, but I had a taste of it. And I knew the day was going to come when I was going to produce a film that would honor those serving in law enforcement. And those of you in this room that walked in this door with your uniforms, I mean, I salute you. I was told through all these interviews that it tends to be a thankless job, but we're here tonight to thank you. As the war veterans or the motivation for the war documentaries, you all are the motivation, you men and women that have served our country and your communities. As law enforcement officers, you're my motivation. And really, how can we ever thank our war veterans for what they've done? And how can we ever thank you for what you've done? It's one and the same. We're protecting this country. And so what an honor for me to be here to talk in front of you. You know, it's been amazing to me. Not one war veteran or law enforcement veteran has ever considered themselves or called themselves a hero. But I know who my heroes are. We live in a day where our young people are looking for role models and heroes, and I found mine. They're in this room right now. They're in this room right now. And so my heart's full. I'm back in Harford County, Maryland. And what an opportunity here to say thank you. And how appropriate, this being National Police Week and tomorrow's the observance of the National Peace Officers Memorial Day. I'm in the right place. I'm in the right place. Unfortunately, I don't have the luxury tonight to entertain you. That's what I compete with, you know. And here's what I'm finding out as I continue my work. I'm finding out several things. I think we live in a day today where we're desensitized by Hollywood. Can I get an amen? We're desensitized by that, you know. We live in this fantasy fiction world, and I'm finding a lot of people don't want to hear a true story. You know why, I think? Because there's a responsibility attached to it. You know, when you go to a movie, you get entertained, you come out, you can just, you know, there's no accountability. It's kind of like, and we need that. I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying, but when we hear a true story, there's a responsibility attached to it. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it for history's sake? You know, I did a film on the Holocaust. Whew. You know, what are we going to do about it when we hear that? You know, with Holocaust deniers today. I could say a lot of things, but I'm going to keep my remarks short, but it's just, it's really a blessing to be here tonight and to stand before you and to be able to talk. Two of the last questions I ask the war veterans, and I think I asked all of the law enforcement veterans, at the end of my interviews, you've served your country, you know, you're a veteran of our country, what does freedom mean to you? And I'll ask the young people in this room tonight that question. What does freedom mean to you? Secondly, what does the American flag mean and represent to you as a veteran? And you know what begins to happen when I ask a veteran that? That's when they begin to cry. You know, I've never been in combat, And I guess I'm supposed to be thankful for that, but I have felt guilty about not serving in the military. My father served during the Korean War, and my uncle was in World War II. But I can tell you, the American flag has become more than just a symbol of freedom to me. It represents those that have served our country and served it well. You know, what does freedom mean? I hope we don't have to lose it to really appreciate it, you know. I think I got off track there a little bit, but forgive me. I'm really excited, I guess, about showing you this film. I'm a little bit nervous too, but I think you'll take something with you tonight after having heard what we're going to hear. I think it's a very unique perspective of law enforcement. I didn't purposely want to sit in a police car with somebody racing down the road and how's it feel right now, you know? I wanted to go beyond that. And the interviews that I did at McComas Funeral Home, there was such a level of maturity and sincerity about them. As I look at you all, it's just, you touch my heart with your stories. And this isn't the complete story of law enforcement, but I think this is a start. This is good. And I really feel it's a shot in the arm for recruitment. Anybody considering a career in law enforcement, I think possibly would want to watch this, because what we're going to get is what the job's like, the stress of the job, is there life after law enforcement, and some of these unanswered questions. So I'm glad that I was able to document that. The hard part for me as an editor, though, was I had about 2.5 hours of good material, and I had to edit it down to 67 minutes. So I may do something else with what I have. I don't throw it on the cutting room floor. It's preserved. I'm a guardian of these stories, and I want to do it right. But what we're going to see is beyond the badge. It's good. I'm really proud of this film. So, everybody okay? Okay. All right. Anyways, well, I could probably keep going, but I think I'll stop there. Ed, if we're ready, and Jeff, if we're ready, we're going to go ahead and start this. This is a 67-minute film. Afterwards, I hope all of us can go back. You came in these doors. There's a cafeteria back here. We'll announce this again later. We're going to have some refreshments, and I'll get a chance to hopefully talk with all of you. Please don't run off. It'd be nice to talk with everybody and shake everybody's hand. But after the film, Sheriff Bain's going to come up and say a few words. And then we're going to close. Jerry Scarborough, I want to thank you for the antique cars. Did everybody get a chance to see the cars out front tonight? Thank you. Thank you. I want to go around the room and just thank everybody. I just have a heart that's very full tonight. But afterwards, we'll take some more pictures, and we'll just hang out. Is that okay? If somebody did bring their police car, could I have a ride? Maybe afterwards we can just go and have fun with that. You know, one of the funnest questions I asked was, you know, you've retired, you don't do this anymore, it's in your blood, the adrenaline rush is gone. What do you do when you see someone just driving like a maniac down the road and just, I think it was Randy Rudy, somebody said something about, you know, giving out tickets to stupid people or something, just something along those lines. But it's just like, you know, and you know, you're always reading plates and you're doing this and that, but it's like, what do? You know, you don't have the badge and the gun. It's like, that was one of my favorite questions, you know. Ed, let's go ahead and start. We're going to down the lights, and I appreciate you for being here again tonight, and I just want to thank you all one more time, and I will present to you my film Beyond the Badge. Thank you.